It turned out that I had a very rare susceptibility to hypnosis that I didn't know about. I felt something change in me. I felt something controlling me. I remember seeing this dark cloaked image with a bony finger, and he had my parents in a dome, and he said, "You'll never see your parents again." And I remember at one point waking up and noticing that the streetlights were his eyes. And I felt that presence of that force once again. And it was as if I could hear him speaking. And he said, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?" And I said, "No, I don't want you here." And it was as if a veil pulled back, and that fiery face that tormented me when I was a child, that I saw and haunted me in my dreams and all of those things, was there. It was coming back again from when I was 3.5 years old or 4 years old. And I said, "I'll kill you." In the meantime, my mom had called the police. They came in. They heard me say, "I'll kill you." When the first one came, I threw him 10 feet across the room, a little 16-year-old skinny kid throwing a big cop. So they knew something was up. I didn't know where the power came from, but it was something that definitely got their attention. And they took me to the hospital, and they were trying to figure out what it was. It was so unusual and so different. They had never seen anything like that. We were in synagogue on Friday nights and on Saturday mornings, and it was always a part of our life. We were helping to meet the minyan for the Mincha Marav service, and it was wonderful. And all I wanted to do was do something that would please God. But I wondered, what about the relationship with God? When I see in the scriptures, when it talked about Avraham and Yitzchak and Yaakov having a relationship, an intimate relationship with God, I said, how come we don't have that? In my freshman year of college, I was living off campus. I was keeping kosher, I wore my yarmulke, I was doing all these things. I was with my roommate. We had some things that happened that were very unusual and made me feel very under pressure. I felt the presence of that force again that I hadn't experienced since high school, and I thought that was all done, and I got really nervous. And in that moment, I found myself quietly asking God, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And then it came up in that process, the issue with my roommate about Jesus. And I thought, oh gosh, it's a setup. This is crazy. I said, God, if Jesus is real, I couldn't even say the name. It was so anathema to me. And as I said it, I felt something stirring up and rising up in my stomach. And I thought, whoa, what is this? And I tried it one more time and it happened. I said, you know what, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to sleep. So the next day, my friends asked me, and my roommate and his friends asked if I wanted to go to church with them. And I said, what do I want to go there for? And inside something said, you need to go there. There's something I need to see. I just knew I had to be there, but I had never been in a church, and it was the last place I would have thought to go. Kind of thought they believed in 3 gods, spoke Latin in church, and hated Jews. And so I assumed Jesus was the biggest anti-Semite of them all, because that's the one they claimed we killed, and that was the one that they claimed was at the forefront of everything they believed. But at the end, they did an altar call, and 2,000 people, about 100 people went forward. And then he said, there's one more person that wants to come forward. And nobody went forward, and I started to think, yeah, I think it's me. And then he says from the front, you know who you are. I said, yeah, but I can't do this. He says, you can do this. I thought, is he reading my mind? And all of a sudden he says, I'm not a mind reader, but I'm just saying what God tells me to say. And this went back and forth for a while, and nobody went up. And then finally said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not doing this. And I felt that force again. I said, oh, I want to do this. Well, by the time I wrestled to do it, I stood as he said, everybody be seated. And I'm the only one standing. And I could just feel everybody looking at the one guy standing. And then he said something. He said, bring him down. Bring him down here. It took 6 people to get me to the front. All of a sudden, I was praying with him in a chair, and I felt again this rush and this flush of electricity. So I knew it wasn't a man. I knew there was something there. There were no wires, there was nothing. I knew something supernatural had happened. And when I looked around the room, I thought they whitewashed the place. I thought, who painted the building? I mean, it just seemed different. It was as if the scales of my eyes were removed and everything looked different. I didn't understand it, but I couldn't deny it. A couple of days later, I was on the phone with my mom. And in the conversation, she said, Jan, you sound so happy. You sound so at peace. What is different? She said, well, what is it? Maybe I can do it. And I said, well, I wish you would, but I don't think you want to know this. She had scheduled for me to see rabbis. She had scheduled for me, I'd say 5 different rabbis, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. She had the whole thing set up for me. People ask me, how can you be Jewish and believe in Jesus? You can't be Jewish and believe in Jesus. And I asked them a question. I said, who told you that? They said, everybody knows that. I said, okay, everybody knows, but how do you know it? Have you ever studied it? No. Have you ever looked at it? No. Have you ever evaluated to challenge it? No. And then they tell me, by the way, you're brainwashed. You believe whatever you're told. You can't think for yourself. So I continue to ask them, how do you know? And then finally it comes down to them saying, if he was really the Messiah, the rabbis would tell us. I said, so you know it because the rabbis told you? Yes. I said, so you never studied it, you never looked at it, you never evaluated it, you never had any cost involved, but the rabbis told you and you believe it. Who's brainwashed?